What caused this damage?
A mudhorn.
Then you have earned the mudhorn as your signet. I shall craft it.
I can't accept. It wasn't a noble kill. I was helped by an enemy.
Why would an enemy help you in battle?
It did not know it was my enemy.
Since you forego a signet, I shall use the excess to forge whistling birds.
Whistling birds will do well. Reserve some for the foundlings.
As it should always be. The foundlings are the future. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to The Way of the Way, the Mandalorian ethnographical series, done by me, the gaming anthropologist. I will not be recording video anytime soon because I do have horrific asthma, and I just do not want to force you guys to watch me wheeze through any of this. So please, enjoy my cute little chibi self while I talk to you about Star Wars and Mandalorians. Today's episode is episode 5, Armor, Beskar, and Material Culture. Every culture has objects that carry meaning beyond their physical form. For Mandalorians, that object is armor. It is the first thing outsiders notice and the last thing Mandalorians remove. It is biography, lineage, memory, and identity, all forged into a single shell. To understand Mandalorians, one must understand their armor, not as equipment, but as a cultural context. Dave Filoni once described Mandalorian armor as a record of who they are and where they have come from, a statement that reveals the depth of meaning embedded in every plate and sigil. Armor is not standardized. It is not mass-produced. It is crafted, inherited, repainted, and reforged. It evolves with the wearer, accumulating history the way a tree accumulates rings. A Mandalorian's armor is never just armor. It is a story. Beskar, the metal from which this armor is forged, is treated with a reverence usually reserved for sacred objects. In The Mandalorian, the armor speaks of Beskar with ritual solemnity, describing it as a gift from the ancestors. When Din Djarin presents the Beskar he earned from the Imperial Remnant, she does not simply melt it. She narrates his deeds as she works, acknowledging the trials that earned the metal. The forge becomes a ceremonial space, and the act of shaping Beskar becomes a rite of passage. The clang of her hammer is not the sound of labor. It is the sound of identity being reforged. This ritualization of craft echoes real-world traditions. In many cultures, blacksmiths occupy a liminal role, part artisan, part priest, part historian. Their work transforms raw material into objects that carry social meaning. The Mandalorian armorer fits the archetype perfectly. She is not merely a smith. She is a custodian of memory, a guardian of tradition, and a quiet authority whose power comes not from combat, but from creation. Her forge is a sanctuary where the past is honored and the future is shaped. The colors and markings on Mandalorian armor further deepen its cultural significance. In Rebels, Sabine Wren's armor is a vivid expression of her identity. Bright, expressive, constantly evolving. Filoni has explained that Sabine's armor reflects her artistic nature, her Mandalorian heritage, and her personal journey. When she repaints it after leaving the Empire, the act is symbolic. She is reclaiming her identity, rewriting her story on the surface of her armor. Every stroke of paint is a declaration of autonomy. In contrast, the armor worn by the Children of the Watch is austere, uniform, and deeply traditional. Their colors are muted, their sigils carefully chosen, their helmets never removed. Jon Favreau has described the Watch as a more orthodox sect, and their armor reflects this orthodoxy. It is not a canvas for personal expression, but a uniform of devotion. The helmet rule, the refusal to remove one's helmet in front of others, transforms armor into a second skin, a permanent boundary between the self and the world. For them, armor is not only identity, it is discipline. The contrast between these two approaches reveals the identity and diversity within Mandalorian culture. Armor is not a monolith. It is a medium through which different groups express their values. For some, it is a symbol of individuality. For others, it is a symbol of unity. But for all, it is a symbol of belonging. The darksaber, though not armor, belongs to the same category of material culture. It is a weapon, yes, but it is also a cultural artifact, a relic that carries the weight of Mandalorian history. Filoni has said that the darksaber's power lies in its story, not in its blade. Whoever wields it inherits a narrative of leadership, conflict, and legitimacy. When Sabine trains with it, she is not learning to fight. She is learning to carry the burden of her history. When Bo-Katan accepts it, she is accepting the responsibility of uniting a fractured people. The darksaber is a reminder that objects can shape destiny. Material culture also appears in smaller, quieter moments. In The Mandalorian, where Din receives the Mudhorn signet, the moment is intimate and ceremonial. The armorer acknowledges his bond with Grogu, and the signet becomes a symbol of their shared story. It is a small piece of metal, yet it carries profound meaning. It marks Din not only as a warrior, but also as a father. It transforms a personal experience into a cultural artifact. Even weapons carry cultural significance. The whistling birds, the vibroblade, the jetpack, each is tied to tradition, training, and identity. When Din earns his jetpack, the armorer reminds him that he is not yet ready to wield it. A statement that frames the jetpack not as a tool, but as a responsibility. Mastery of equipment is tied to mastery of the self. In real-world anthropology, material culture is often described as the physical expression of intangible values. Mandalorian objects function in exactly this way. Armor expresses lineage. Beskar expresses resilience. The Forge expresses continuity. The Darksaber expresses authority. These objects are not passive. They shape behavior, reinforce norms, and carry memory across generations. This becomes especially important in diaspora. When people lose their homeland, objects become anchors of identity. For Mandalorians, armor is a portable homeland. It is the one thing they carry with them when everything else is lost. It is a reminder of who they are, even when they are scattered across the galaxy. In this sense, Beskar is not just metal. It is cultural survival. To study Mandalorian material culture is to study the tangible forms of their values. It is to see how identity is forged, worn, and carried. It is to understand that for Mandalorians, objects are not merely objects. They are stories made solid. They are memory made metal. They are the physical embodiment of a people who have endured war, exile, and fragmentation, yet continue to define themselves through the things they create and the things that they carry. In the end, Mandalorian armor is not about protection. It is about meaning. It is about the way a people choose to represent themselves, the way they honor their past, and the way they imagine their future. It is the most visible expression of a culture that they have to survive by forging identity as carefully as they forge Beskar. with patience, with skill, and with an unbreakable sense of purpose. If you enjoyed this episode of The Way of the Way, please make sure to hit all of the buttons so that I can pay my bills. And if you would like to support this and other works that I am doing currently, come and join my Patreon. I'll see you guys later.
This is the way.